All right, and today you are in for a special treat. We are going to be talking about a man who knows a lot about platform businesses. Right now, a lot of people are thinking about how do I build a business that becomes a platform. Some people are thinking, what is that? So we're going to better understand what that might mean. Is this like Airbnb? And what's the advantages of having a platform business? Is it a toll booth to make cash, to print money? We will find out today. We have Sonny Mayugba. He is a man that has built a number of companies, other platform type of businesses, and now he is with a company called Swimply. How you doing, Sonny?
I'm doing good, Mark. It's so great to be here.
I am glad you are here. I am honored. And so those of you that may not know Sonny, he was one of our first guests on the show. And I want to get a little bit of your background, like where you were then to now. But you had built like a restaurant type of software program that ended up blowing up and having great success, and now all the way here to Swimply. So maybe you can kind of like take us through a little bit of that journey, and then we'll get into how to win.
Yeah, you got it. Well, like I said, excited to be here. By the way, the new digs are amazing because I remember being on that early show with Lokesh, right?
Probably, we were down at the radio station, right? 'Cause we were doing it live.
Yeah,
on the
you were doing
radio.
it live, and it was like it looked like we were in a half of a Starbucks or something. And now you've got like a legit look at the full bar. And if you can't see it in here, people, it's pretty sweet. You want to get on the show.
Thirsty once in a while.
You know what I mean? I'm hoping that the Tribe Up guys make me a cocktail here soon. But
for sure.
But yeah, so where was I then? Yeah, that was a company called Requested that I founded not too long before we met at your show.
Mm-hmm.
And Requested, I had this premise. So I'm a longtime operator and entrepreneur, as you know. And one of the recent companies I'd started there was a restaurant, hospitality company, of which it had, that was also supposed to be sort of a platform. That's a whole nother story. But it had a brand called the Red Rabbit Kitchen and Bar.
Yeah.
In Midtown, pretty popular place. And I was sitting in there one day and was looking around and we had the benefit of it opening. It was very popular. This was right after the 08 crash, right? So it opened in early 2012. We were coming out of the tail end of the recession, and it was just crazy, like 24/7 booked. And you're an investor in restaurants. You know how it can be when it's great. It's really fun.
It can be not so good, and it can be great.
That's right. Exactly. So we caught it lucky. And then, of course, the honeymoon kind of ends. And
by the way, it's never luck. Okay, go ahead, I'll let you finish.
Well, you know what I mean. And so, anyway, I was sitting there one day on a Tuesday at like 1:30 p.m. and I had this flash around why couldn't merchants connect through mobile with the right customers? That was sort of the big picture premise. And could we do that through dynamic pricing? So in other words, the idea of Requested was I wanted to try and help merchants connect with the right customers. The Groupons of the world, this is when Groupon was still in its heyday of popularity. The Groupons of the world were great because they drove butts and seats. The problem with the Groupons and those type of coupons were that you didn't really know who's coming in. You're giving a discount to potentially somebody, actually, as it turns out, a lot of people who aren't really going to become loyal customers. And isn't it, look at now, it's all about LTV.
Yeah.
Everything's about how long.
The churn rate is incredible.
Right, exactly. And it proved true, right? So I was attempting to sort of, circumvent that through dynamic pricing and mobile and this idea of social. So trying to connect a lot of things. That was one of the issues, was that we tried to do a lot. It was a great idea, but it ultimately worked but didn't work. So anyway, that was Requested, and we were just a little baby like pre-seed company when we came and saw you. It was myself and three engineering co-founders here in the Sacramento area. And, we built a little alpha, a little beta. And I think when we came and saw you, we were, pre-funding and, we'd raised some friends and family around town. Just went out and hustled up some friends and family money to, sort of quit our jobs and get it going. And we were just out trying to scrape for any support we could get. And you had us on the show, which was awesome.
Yeah. And then you ended up having a merger or an acquisition. And
Yeah. The journey was pretty different. Like every entrepreneur, you think this is it. We're the next Uber. We're the next Facebook. That's what you're dreaming of, right? That's your goal. That was our goal. We could see this, like this idea of connecting merchants and customers globally. It's a multi-trillion-dollar industry. It's huge. And we were starting with restaurants. And so it turns out that business process transformation was just a little too much at the time, especially at the time. And think about what's changed. That was 2014. Like think about what's changed in terms of mobile, what's happened in social, what's happened in fintech and commerce. I mean, we put it this way. We were using a company, this is a perfect perspective. We were using a company called Balance Payments for transactions. And then we said, hey, there's this brand new company we should try. They're called Stripe. That's how long ago this was, right? Exactly. So anyway, we launched, we got going, and it was kind of working. You know, we were just alpha testing. The real game changer for us was we were accepted into batch 1 of Jason Calacanis' launch, then called Incubator. It's called the Accelerator. So he has sort of an elite accelerator like Y Combinator, but it has a few differences, you know, one of which it's only 7 companies, and we got in, which was just phenomenal. And that really changed everything for us because, as you know, and for all the entrepreneurs in the Sacramento region, every tech region has its own type of bubble. And our bubble was just that we could sort of see what was possible here. And then we, you know, through Jason, we got some funding, which is great, but here's what was really the game changer. The perspective of somebody like that who's seen hundreds of thousands of companies. We were interfacing in a room smaller than this with Steve Huffman, founder of Reddit, Josh Hellman from LinkedIn, Facebook, Sam Shank, founder of Hotel Tonight, just guys like you and I, but they've done this thing at pretty big scale, and they're looking at you and going, what if you tried this? Have you thought of this? Tweak on this. And it wasn't just funding, it's the product, it's the thinking, just all those things completely changed our trajectory, right? And then, of course, out of the Accelerator, we got funded by some great luminaries like Chamath Palihapitiya and Brad Feld, just some really neat, amazing people. Iconic, Cyan Bannister.
People in the angel. I mean, those for you, those of you that don't know, Jason Calacanis is the man when it comes to this
angel investing.
Angel
He's
investor,
the man,
and then Brad Felt. He's written books on the subject.
Exactly.
Super respected people.
Yeah, super respected people who have done it. There are also builders. You know, these were entrepreneurs who had companies, not just check writers. So that really, I'll say for myself as a founder and CEO, it helped me think differently and act differently in a good way. Like just helped me to sort of see new perspectives. Anyway, everyone loved the idea. And so we launched it. And, you know, like I said, we had this big dream, man. It's going to be the biggest thing in the world. And then, you know, you look at the data and you watch the company and it doesn't go the way you think it's going to go. So I'll skip a lot of that stuff. But basically, the company was struggling to hold on to customers, to get customers, and really to really get transactions. That's what you see. And, you know, the biggest lesson out of that I can share is that you have to just look at the data and you have to connect the dots and react. Even though you have a vision, every entrepreneur has a vision, right? Our friends here at Tribe Up, they're like, we're going to be the Airbnb of this, you know, this space.
Fitness
spaces
stuff,
and stuff, right? And it won't go exactly the way they envision it. It just doesn't. And that's okay. The key is to find how do we get there? It's going to be a windy road. So for us, it was crazy, man. We pivoted the product. We were listening to customers, both sides of the market, you know, our restaurant partners and our customers that were using the app. And we kept changing it based upon their feedback. And, you know, we got better and better, a little bit better and better. But of course, as every entrepreneur knows, runway starts to get short and it gets a little crazy. So we went through some various paths, one of which was we created a new business model for the company where we licensed our software. I mean, I looked in the mirror and said, hey, maybe I'm not good enough to be the next Mark Zuckerberg. Okay. But you know what? I got to find a way for my shareholders and my employees. So I was sitting around with my engineer one day and he goes, hey, remember that one guy? What if we did a licensing model? I go, that's a great idea. So we built a white label stack of the software and I went out and started selling licensing partners. I'm like, that's okay. Maybe I can't make it work, but if they can, we're still a good company. And it was working. People were signing up. And one of my first customers was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, of all places, which is a trip because I've been to 6 of the 7 continents. I'd never been to the South. So I go down there to work with them on onboarding and, you know, helping them understand the product for their salespeople, and which was this, you know, white label version of Requested, dynamic pricing, name your own price at restaurants and bars. And while I'm down there, I discovered another founder who was doing food delivery. And this is talk about the universe working. So I got his number and I called him up, and his name was Chris. And I said, hey, Chris, this is Sonny. Hey, I'm launching this app in your area. And I called him saying, hey, I already see you have iPads in your merchants. You know, every food delivery company has iPads in there. We used iPads as well. hey, let me lease some space on your iPad to save me some capital costs, and I'll give you a rev share. Plus,
interesting.
Plus fellow entrepreneurs, let's meet each other. He was tiny, I was tiny, and he goes, hey, let me guess what's going on with your company. He named every challenge we had. I go, how the hell did you know that? Because everybody on the outside said, oh, Requested is the most brilliant idea. It's going to be huge, right? But it wasn't working. And so he goes, I started a dynamic pricing app, prior to this app. Wow. And he goes, I saw the problems and I asked my customers, they all wanted food delivery down here. See, in California, food delivery was already baked. In the South, it didn't exist yet.
Okay.
Yeah. So we ended up coming together and we ended up merging and we said, hey, let's attack this space together. And we worked on both service offerings and products, and the data was there. The dynamic pricing thing was chugging along, not really working, but the food delivery was going nuts. So, we sort of shelved the Requested concept and leaned into the Waitr food delivery concept.
Okay.
And so, I became founding CMO. He's our CEO.
That's how it happened. I always kind of wondered
that's how it
happened. I knew you had, because Waitr was a really well-known company as well.
Well, at the time when we met, it was in, I think, three tiny cities, Lake Charles, Baton Rouge, I think it just launched, and Beaumont, Texas. It was pretty small in the beginning. Mm-hmm. And, but they had trajectory, the traction and the data was showing this company's going to go. But it really fit together well. So we did a merger and came together. And you remember Coco, I think, who came with me on the show, mm-hmm. one of my co-founders, she came over, and both of my other engineers came over, John and Carlos, and my CFO, Dave Pringle, who's a local luminary here. He came over as our founding CFO. And, we formed out the executive team, the product team, and, grew the company. And, 3 years of heads down crazy work, man. It was the hardest I've ever worked in my life. And then in 2018, we participated in a SPAC and a de-SPACing and went public on Nasdaq. So It was a great outcome.
Nice. Well, that story, just shows number one, I take it as anything is possible, right? You didn't quit, but is there another takeaway there that for our audience, okay, the one thing there, because it sounds like that one extra phone call, you never know.
Totally. Yeah. The takeaway as a founder is, look, every founder has imposter syndrome. Just be real. We all struggle with that. Am I good enough? Is this going to work? Of course, we go out, we're raising money, we're selling customers. You're telling the story and singing the song with the most confidence you can in the world. But every founder internally, we all struggle a little bit with is this going to fly? And there's just hard times. And the key is, this sounds really generic, but it's don't give up. And it's not just don't give up, so be hard-headed. That's what a lot of people hear when I say don't give up. What it means is you've got to find the way. So for us, I was realizing our product wasn't working. Now, of course, we wanted it to work. It was our dream. We worked, founder hours. It's 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, giving up good paying jobs at Facebook and other companies to come do this thing and make zero money, right? You sacrifice a lot as a founder. Your spouse, your partners, they sacrifice the most, right? Mm-hmm. You don't see them on weekends and so on. But you don't give up if you think you can find a way, which, for us was really interesting. Okay, if Requested is not going to work as is, let's pivot the product. Mm-hmm. Let's try a new business model. Let's go raise more money, even if it's embarrassing, which we did. Let's try and sell the company. We did all those things. That was, as CEO, I got up every morning. I'm like, okay, I'm working on these 4 new paths and still trying to make the company work, right? Yeah. And that's the definition of not giving up, is you go all the way until there's truly no gas in the tank. Because the easiest thing to do when a company doesn't work is just give up. And I've done it. Guilty.
Yeah. Go as hard as you can. Keep doing it, but stay humble enough and open-minded enough to, instead of quit, notice other opportunities.
Yeah. Here's a good example of that. And unfortunately, you can't see this, but I'll describe it. So company wasn't working too well. We had a year of runway. So it's mid 2015 or something like that. And I go to J Cal and I say, hey man, we need to raise more money. Here's what's going on with the data. I believe in this concept. How do you feel? He goes, I believe in this concept, Sonny. Let's get it going. Let's find other ways. And he kind of said, hey, I used to do this thing when I invested in Uber. We'd have burgers and beers at my house. And I'd bring a bunch of investors in and they'd pitch companies. And that's how Twitter and Uber and all these big names happen. A lot of these things happen in the Valley, right? He goes, I'm going to bring that back, not just for Requested, but for some of my other companies. But it was a spur. I remember this. We had a lunch at the Battery. And he said, I was like, oh my God, this is it. And so he did. He brought it back. And in the room was Homebrew, Cyan Bannister from Founders Fund. I mean, just amazing investors. Everybody's casual. It's his house in San Francisco in the living room with burgers and beers. Couldn't be a better scenario, right? And then you get up on Jason's TV, you pitch your company, right? Just super cool. And if you looked at our charts, I mean, they're just horrendous. They're all trending down. They're embarrassing. But you know what, Mark? I did it.
Yeah.
You got to do those things, even when they're embarrassing and just like soul crushingly devastating, because you just don't know where they're going to lead. You got to keep trying. And that's sort of the lesson out of that is you never know. By the way, we didn't get any money that night. As a matter of fact, everyone's like, you're drawing dead, bud. And we're like, we know, but I'm pitching you anyway.
That's right. I'm not quitting.
I'm not quitting.
It's interesting as you think about you do investing now. I do investing. We have Misha over Tribe Up sitting at the table there. He's going to be raising money at some point. And you think about, right, all that imposter syndrome and that kind of thing. But on the other side of the table, if you and I are sitting over there as investors and we meet Misha, we meet a founder, and the intangible, in many cases, right? People have good ideas. Oh, it sounds like a great idea. You got Airbnb for fitness or Airbnb for swimming pools or what have you. But we all know that you're going to pivot, as you said at the beginning. But who can have the determination, I call it commitment, to figure it out and stay in the game, stay in the hunt? How do you determine that in Misha or another founder? Because that's really what you're buying into. That's right. What you're betting on is that, that heart.
That's right. Yeah, that's a really good question. And what I've learned is there's a certain DNA, especially in natural CEOs. And this is a big reason why I joined Swimply. I joined Swimply and it was just the two founders, but there's this prodigious CEO. He's young. The kid just turned 24. Now this company is just growing like crazy organically, and he has this strain. And I saw it too with Chris, with Waitr, because it's all about execution. I mean, Waitr's a really good story. We were a food delivery company in 2016. Think about that. Mm-hmm. The entire investment community was like, this jury is out. DoorDash won, or Grubhub won. DoorDash is number 2, potentially win, which is what turned out to happen. And we got Postmates, and we got Uber Eats. There is no way anyone else is going to win. They told that to our face. Yeah. And we had a great strategy that was different. And we had a really killer instinct CEO who knew how to execute. That's how you size that up. Because look, there are some novel new ideas, right? Maybe you create this unique algorithm that powers a rocket or something in crypto. It's all brand new. Okay, there's a few of those. But most of these marketplaces and ideas are tweaks upon tweaks upon tweaks, right? Swimply is just that. Like if hotels took a commercial space and gave you part of it for a day, then Airbnb disrupted that a little tweak and they gave you a residential space, the entire space for a day. That's a little tweak. Well, we've taken a small tweak on that. We're giving you a piece of a residential space by the hour. Yeah. So it's just a little tweak, right? So the idea, it is interesting. The idea matters, but it's who can execute. Because here's the other thing. We'll probably have 100 copycats here in next month. By the time this show airs, I bet you we will have tons. Because it's not really a patentable idea. Anybody can rent out their swimming pools by the hour. The difference is who's your leadership, how are you running the core values and the actual culture of that company, who's running personal and professional accountability, and then are you getting shit done? I mean, that is really what it comes down to, getting things done. When Waitr was going in 2016, dude, there was 850 food delivery companies in America. 850. That's like saying there's 850 search engines. There's not. There's like 3 now, right? Yeah. 2, 3, basically.
Yeah.
It was our execution.
Interesting. Well, I think I'm gonna mention 2 things right now. One, we're on the radio and we're also on podcast. We're on Money 105.5. So Scott, my AV guy, make sure you cross out the S word just for radio. Podcast, nobody cares, but
I'll keep it clean. My wife's gonna yell at me on that one.
That's why he's got to have work to do. You're gonna work.
Yeah. Look at him. He's leaning back. He's checking his Twitter account. Look at him. Come on.
Yeah, we got to keep him alert. And then the other thing I'll mention is, so I invested into a company called Trifecta in its early days. Hey, food delivery, and I got told, and I never told this to the founder, but I got told by some really smart people. What are you doing? Food delivery, same thing you just said about Uber Eats and, Grubhub and DoorDash and all that. I got told that same thing. I'm like, no, I believe in this guy. And they were like very
Great
small
outcome.
company, and now
Yeah.
they're one of the pillars of the community. Employ hundreds of people, hundreds
That's
of millions
right.
in sales, and so on.
Yeah.
So there is something to picking they say bet on the jockey or whatever. There's something to just that gut thing about believing that somebody's never going to quit, or that they're smart enough to put the people around them that can figure stuff out.
Yeah,
So,
you're exactly right. And
so you guys have obviously done that, right?
yeah, I mean, the team, there's a famous quote, and I'll probably get the exact words wrong, but Paul Graham of YC said, products change, people don't. Something like that. And I'm probably misquoting it, and everyone can go Google it and you'll find it. But the premise of that hit me really, really strong, both in my team and really looking at myself as a young entrepreneur. I had some luck when I was really young as an entrepreneur, but then I thought I was really smart and cool, and I did some stuff that was very bad, like just bad. I mean, meaning bad mistakes. I didn't do bad, evil stuff. You know what I mean?
He didn't steal.
Yeah, exactly. I just meant like I made some decisions and made CEO decisions and that caused some big failures. And a lot of my projects have failed. And you learn a lot about that, and you have to realize that companies are all made up of people, right? And whether it's in food delivery or renting out activity assets or swimming pools or hospitality or food, whatever the vertical, there's lots of players in that. But for some reason, some companies do really well and some just most go by the wayside. And it is, as an investor, you got to look at the whole package. So you start with the simple due diligence of, what does the data look like? What is the idea? Show me the product. What does the technical side of it look like? Just all the basics, right? But once you pass the table stakes, then you're looking at, is this the team? And there's a really good question. My friend, I did a stint at Spero Ventures, and there's an investor there named Stephen Wemple, really, really smart kid. And he always asks this question, why you and why right now? Really good question, because the now matters too, right? Mm-hmm. Like if we were trying Waitr right now, we might do good, but it's a very different scenario. And our strategy of taking tier 3 markets is not there anymore. DoorDash and those guys are there now. They weren't there. Yep. That was part of our. So if you have the fundamentals of a good strategy, a good product, and a good service offering in the right now, then you're looking at the thing that makes the winners and losers, which is this team, is this CEO the one that's going to make this happen?
Okay. Well, there's 3 subjects I want to bring up. I want to make sure we understand Swimply for sure, so that what its I guess secret sauce is, and then I want to talk about a platform I'm working on building. I want your advice.
Cool.
It's a different kind of platform. It's not digital. It's human. It's a human system, if you will. It's called the Growth Factory. I'm super excited about it. We're launching it, and your experience would be invaluable. Your advice would be invaluable.
Exciting.
And then also, more of how could we help someone like Misha, who's building a platform company, and the nuances of the kind of platform companies that he might consider looking at to gain ideas and stuff like that.
Cool.
Okay.
Let's go
so
down.
Let's start with Swimply. Give us that business again and what the secret sauce is.
Yeah. So Swimply is a marketplace for homeowners to rent out their underutilized swimming pools and for swimmers to come book it by the hour.
Okay, and when they book it, like what if I'm putting myself in the customer standpoint? I look at this. Am I throwing a little party over there, a hangout for my kid's birthday, or is it I'm going to swim laps? What's the draw?
Yes, and yes.
Okay.
So let me tell you how it works. So classic platforms, Swimply.com or mobile apps, Android and iOS. It starts on the host side. So we're a 2-sided marketplace. Waitr was a 3-sided marketplace because of the drivers. One thing I'm very excited about is we don't have, drivers are, it's a lot to handle and a lot of cost. So we don't have that. So we're a 2-sided marketplace. So we have hosts. So first, Mark owns a nice home in Rockland, and he's got this big old 20,000 gallon swimming pool. And, he's on the road a lot. He's working a lot and he uses it a fair amount, but he's like, I could make a lot of money in this pool. So he walks outside, he snaps a couple pictures, he goes to Swimply and he lists his pool. Okay. And it says, oh, I have an outdoor kitchen, or I have towels, or whatever you want to do. You can kind of, much like an Airbnb, you sort of outfit your listing the way you want. It's your pool, your rules. So we help you with like pricing. Should this be $100 an hour? Should it be $10 an hour? And so on. So we help you with all that kind of good stuff and get your listing nice and tight. And then you're listed on Swimply. And then what happens is swimmers come and they're looking for different experiences. This is to the core of your question. Interestingly enough, the majority of the experiences are moms. It's moms coming. They're looking for a backyard oasis, because the real interesting secret sauce of Swimply is you're getting a private oasis, which is very different than, say, going to a public pool, or maybe like, hey, is it cool if I come over and swim, on the phone? So you're essentially renting out this really beautiful private oasis in Orlando, Florida, or Nashville, Tennessee, or Denver, Colorado, or Walnut Creek, California, and on and on and on. Portland, Oregon's actually going crazy right now on Swimply. So Portland, Oregon. And the other interesting secret sauce is, unlike Airbnb, where if Mark put his home on Airbnb, you can't be there, bud. Like you gotta be there. Here, our hosts are there the majority of the time. And I know it's a head turner, but it turns out that's one of the things the hosts value the most. Of course, they're there. They want to make some money. We had a story go viral 2 weeks ago. A retired school teacher in Colorado did $50,000 just last summer. $50,000 to him. That's your mortgage for a year.
Yeah.
And he never left the house. He still lived there. Still went to work. He's retired, but you know what I mean? Still did his thing and lived life. And so he made $50,000. We had a pool in Portland sign up a month ago. Their first week, $18,000 in bookings. No, this isn't fluff marketing numbers. These are real, right? So we're seeing this very organic product market fit. So anyway, back to the experience. It's moms is primarily, so they're coming and they're doing we call it family swims. That's mom. And
so we live in, I don't have a pool currently, but if I did, say it's a production type home with a standard, maybe on a quarter of an acre or something like that.
Sure.
With a pool. It's nothing extravagant, but it's, I'll say
clean,
it's the run of the mill, a middle class home in Rockland. What would somebody pay by the hour for something like that?
$30 an hour.
Okay.
Yeah,
and they
maybe $45. They set their own price.
Okay.
And we help them. We have an algorithm that actually says, hey, in your market at this time, maybe you should think about pricing like this. But ultimately they can override that algorithm.
$40 an hour.
Let's call it $30 an hour. So if you think about that, and then they get to set the limit on people. Most people do up to 10 people.
And they say whether you can have alcohol or like whatever. If there's any certain restrictions,
absolutely,
the homeowner can set that.
Homeowner not only can, they do. They have all the amenities. Some people say, alcohol, great, no alcohol. Some people say, you can bring up to 30 people. There's this pool in Silicon Valley, 30 people, or some people say only up to 5 people. Some people say no kids. No kids. Some people say bring the kids. So it's your pool, your rules. Yeah. So you set the experience, and then the guest is going through just like you're looking for a hotel or just like you're looking for an Airbnb. What are you looking for? So they kind of skim through and they go, this looks great. And they book the pool. And think about this, it's a family of 6, say 4 plus 2 of their friends. They go there for 3 hours. I mean, that's nice in the sun. They're swimming, totally private. And they're out of there for $90 for 6 people. I mean, that's a great experience, right? And then we do a revenue share with the host. They get the majority of that revenue. And it's just incredible. It's just on fire, Mark.
So it's a two-sided marketplace. You're growing fast. Are there certain network effects that go into place where you need people to know about it, and you need hosts?
Yeah.
How do you grow?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we inherently have a network effect because do you think most people swim alone or with people?
Together, yeah.
Together, right. We do have plenty of alone swimmers who do fitness. We have a guest who swims 15 times a month in San Diego, so she's using it for laps. But the average party size is 5 people.
Okay.
So, but only one person books it. So those other 4 people get the address. So Sonny books it, and I say, hey, Mark and Misha and everybody and Scott, I text you guys, here's the address. We're meeting Saturday at noon. Come, and we're going to be there for 3 hours. Bring 2 cars and park on the street or whatever. Okay. And then you go, oh, how'd you get this? I got it on Swimply. So I just 4x'd my awareness, right?
Okay.
Because you guys have never heard of it.
Interesting. So I was thinking about people I know. I happen to know the guy with the biggest swimming pool I believe in California. He lives right down the street.
You're kidding me.
No, he's a really good close friend.
Can we go there
of
after
mine.
this?
We might be able to.
No, I'm kidding.
I should say his name because I don't think he knows about you. Anyway, he's a really close buddy of mine.
That's awesome.
Anyway, it is enormous. It
must be.
It is the thing. And I also know the largest, these guys have been on the show, the largest swimming pool cleaner in Northern California is my good buddy.
Oh, really? What's the company called?
It's called SwimChem.
Oh, good.
Jerry
I would love to meet him.
I played grammar. The guy is like a brother to me.
That's great. I would love to meet your brother.
He's got thousands of
clients, right? Yeah.
Thousands. I don't know how many thousands.
So
several thousand.
We're working, the swimming pool industry is interesting. It reminds me of the restaurant industry back in the early 2000s, which is, it's very frothy, but it's very antiquated. So we've been working with some of the largest swimming pool companies globally, by the way. Just, introducing them to Swimply for partnership. And we're a young company. We're a very, very young company, but growing incredibly fast. And so we're embracing the swimming pool industry. And it's interesting to see because, look, here's our big vision, Mark. We have this two-sided classic marketplace, right? It's some hosts, some swimmers. You can book the pool for 3 hours, done, right? But that's not where we want to stop. What we envision is this platform where the industry can actually house itself because it is technology starved. And we want to be able to go to Swimply and you've got 2 million pools on there for homeowners. You've got 50 million swimmers. This is swimming is the third most popular human sport, human activity. Walking's number one.
Makes sense.
Walking's everybody. A 1-year-old can swim. In a little swimmer, and a 90-year-old can swim laps. Everybody can swim. Not everybody can, downhill ski. Not everybody can skydive, but everybody can swim. So we want to have this platform really be the sort of centerpiece for this industry where he's booking his cleaning service, certifications. Maybe you're getting equipment and supplies through Swimply. Maybe you're getting swim lessons. How about lifeguarding, training and certification? Yeah. All that. We really want to be the center of that.
Okay.
Starting with swimming.
So put yourself in the center of the ecosystem.
Correct.
Right? And then not competing with any of them. And they're all friends.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. They all have, because, once your buddy Cam, what are they called?
SwimChem.
Once SwimChem gets a pool, well, they only need one cleaner. So then the pool next door uses some other company, Poolworks or ASP or something, and on it goes, right? There's 10.2 million pools in America with another, 50,000 a year. So there's plenty of market there. So it's an exciting place to be. And then, our bigger vision, which is going to come to life here really soon, is if we do all that for swimming, let's do that for your private tennis court. How about your rock climbing wall?
Yeah.
How about your backyard kitchen?
I love it. So the guy from Sacramento is also the largest pool builder in the country. Is here in Sacramento as well.
Amazing.
Randomly, he's a franchise though. That's how he.
I gotta hang out with you more often.
But it's interesting, because I think about like joint marketing. How do you grow this business? And partnerships to me seems like a potential way to grow something. And just having these, getting connected in. And I was thinking about like financing your pool. Is like, what if you knew you had, $50,000 a year in revenue coming in on the pool? It'll make your pool payment for you.
Okay.
So interesting.
You get it. So I didn't even go there. That's exactly where we're heading. So we want to be the bank, but a really, really cool bank, right? So imagine you're Mr. and Mrs. Smith or Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, and you live in, like you said, that middle-class house, and you got a big backyard, but you can't afford to put a pool in. It's $60,000. What if we paid for it? And now we're not only getting you a pool with $0 out of pocket, but we're financing it through Swimply. You still get use of the pool. Utilization of swimming pools in America is under 15%.
I can imagine.
People don't use them.
Our last house, we had a really cool pool. Rarely used it.
Rarely use it. You use it the first year. Everyone's swimming, and then the next year, mom stops, and then the kids stop, and then it's dad out there by himself. You know what I mean? It's true, right? So, utilization is very, very low, but it's a great asset, and they're wonderful just family gathering spaces. And so that is our big picture goal. We can do that. And then think about us realized where if we become this marketplace where we can start to monetize every piece of your home. And I don't mean that in a science fiction gross way. I mean that like, hey, if you've got an outdoor, maybe you don't have a pool, but maybe you have an outdoor kitchen.
Okay.
Maybe we want to get access to a nice family who wants to come rent that kitchen by the hour and have a barbecue.
Interesting.
Right?
Okay.
It really gets kind of interesting in terms of space.
Well, at another time, I'll pull up this site because I feel like I'm intrigued and want to add value. But
cool.
we'll not waste everybody's time because I want to make sure Misha, my good buddy Misha here, he's building his business. He's at the early stages. It's past the idea, but he doesn't have the MVP yet. Doesn't have the minimum viable product. So Misha, okay, what question do we want to ask Sonny as you sit there at this stage, right? You're building an online marketplace. You're building Airbnb. It's Tribe Up. What do we want to know from Sonny that would help a company at your stage? Why you, why now? Yeah. Okay. So you want to know that about
us? Oh, you're asking that about us?
Right? Because we always wonder, why me, why now?
Yeah. How do you find that? How do you know that? Right? How do you figure that out?
What's the process of down selection that you go through, especially with your
How do you know if it's you, and how do you know if now's the time? Because there's people doing stuff in the Bay Area that us guys in Sacramento don't know about yet.
That's
on
right.
average.
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
How do you find that information out so you're not like, oh, the timing sucks because somebody else has just raised a Series A on this?
Yeah. Well, part of that is just doing your homework and first off, I like the concept a lot. When I met Misha in the lobby, he told me what he was doing, and I said, "Great, can I get a kayak for 2 hours in Lake Tahoe?" Right? Because I live half time in Truckee, and I want to, and I could either buy a kayak for $1,500, but I'm not going to use it much. I would so much rather rent one. And actually, I've rented kayaks on Lake Tahoe.
It'd be cool if they just brought it down to the lake for you,
that's
so
right.
you don't have to go hauling those things to pain.
I think there's a lot of things like that. Yeah, so I think the concept of what you're doing is very, very cool. But really, that's a question you have to answer for yourself. What I look at is, so my personality type, I'm a communicator performer. So I run a lot on instinct, so I'm like on the opposite spectrum of innovators. Like here's Steve Jobs, I'm the opposite, so the innovators and the organizers, they're going to look at information and look at all the data, connect the dots. I go almost entirely on instinct. That's just me. So I'm trying to work on my data points and they're trying to work on their instincts, right? So that's where I start, Mark, is when I think about a why you, for example, my CEO now, I had lots of options for my next journey, luckily. And as I was assessing those options, it was really the CEO why I chose to join Swimply. I think this kid is just not only very smart, but there's a certain DNA in CEOs that is very unique. And I don't even know if I can describe it, but it's like the way I put it in my, limited vocabulary is they have a tendency and they have a natural ability to move the ball down the field. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's really different than a creative CEO. And look, I'm guilty of this sometimes. I love to start things. I like to dream. I'm a big dreamer. I like to get concepts together and build these things. But there's something different about moving the ball down the field. And I've had to hone that skill as my own CEO and, executive role. And I've gotten really good at it, hence the color of my hair. But you see that in a great sort of like why you is you meet an entrepreneur and you're like, this person's going to move the ball down the field. Because as we said before, it really is about execution. There's been lots of peer-to-peer borrow type marketplaces like yours, where you can borrow the blender, you can borrow the lawnmower, you can borrow the kayak. There's been tons of them, and most of them are by the wayside. So that's one thing I'd check yourself on is like, do I have the killer instinct of a CEO who's going to like take this all the way? And then the why now, again, that's another question you'd have to, for Tribe Up, you have to ask yourself. I mean, for Swimply, our why now is very evident. So the founders, story's a really interesting story. At 20 years old, Bunham, our founder, he's the oldest of 12 kids in right above New York in Jersey. And he was looking to rent a pool by the hour and said, wow, you can't really do that. So a lot, kind of like I've done a lot of my companies, like, you can't do that. Oh, let's go build it. And so he just threw it out there, and all this growth came organically. Just so you realized quickly, from the first 4 pools, which he sold himself knocking on doors, you saw product market fit. And that's one thing, like, again, conversely to Requested. Everybody intellectually said they wanted Requested. Hey, I want to name my own price at restaurants. That sounds good. But then when you put the product in market, and you know this better than anyone, Mark, you watch customers behave. And if they don't behave as your hypothesis, you got to like unfall in love with your hypothesis. Yeah. And that's hardest thing for an entrepreneur. So the why now is really, for Swimply, again, we're experiencing just this breakneck growth, much organically. Now we're doing some manufacturing of growth as well. But for you, I don't think you really know. I mean, you as a founder have to say, I believe I'm the one, and this is now, and then you got to put it out there and see how people react.
Yeah. Okay, so we only have a few minutes left, but I want to describe the Growth Factory. I think your experience, it really would be invaluable. So what we're doing with the Growth Factory is bringing a world-class accelerator to Sacramento, along with a complimentary fund to invest in the companies that go through the accelerator. Finally doing it. There really hasn't been that in Sacramento, so we are partnering with, I'm bringing in partners, right? So I have co-founders with me, but I'm also bringing in other people who have been there, done that, that have done accelerators in the past. And then kind of the why now for us is, I feel like we're sort of uniquely positioned to add a backyard advantage or a secret sauce for these entrepreneurs, in that I've been doing this podcast. I've lived here all my life. I'm a hometown guy. I'm kind of known as a cheerleader in the trenches with entrepreneurs. I'm doing a lot of investing. But I think that we can bring in LPs that will love up on these founders and help get them from point A to point B, get them that next round of funding, get them that traction. First of all, I know the presidents of the different corporations in the town and so on, and the municipalities and so on. We can get them those pilot programs, those early wins, and so that they are attractive they're investable, basically. So as we build out this Growth Factory platform, right, build it out and they will come kind of mentality. Thoughts on something like that? Because you've been involved with Jason Calacanis, the world-renowned angel investor, and he's got his own accelerator. Thoughts on what we're doing, and maybe even like, hey, have you thought of that? Have you thought of that? And, how can we win, right? Any ideas on winning?
Yeah. Well, first off, I love what you're doing, and I love all that you do. I see your face on the billboards, and you're tenacious. You have the killer instinct. So keep it up for the region. I think it's awesome. Thank you for doing it. We've always needed, I sat on one of those councils for Kevin Johnson when he was trying to get the tech going, and then it was after KJ was somebody else. I can't remember. But, talking to city officials, and I used to say the exact same thing. I'm like, we can have all the think tanks we want. We need capital. Yes. Entrepreneurs need capital. That's what we need. Yeah, 97% of our ideas will fail. Just know that. That's why it's called venture capital. But we need capital in this region. So it is music to my ears to hear you say you're going to have this factory with some capital influx. So first off, I think that's great. My gut reactions is it's a great idea. I was not only an alumni or am an alumni of Launch Accelerator, but I also worked with Jason, last year for a while. And what he's done, is really a magnificent sort of blueprint. And, what he's done is create this incredible founder stack, right? Mm-hmm. That's kind of what you're talking about. You've got the book, you've got your podcast, and I've seen you've been doing something very similar for this region, which I think is fantastic, right? Because if you can build a great founder stack, if you hook up with Jay, you're like, okay, maybe you go through Accelerator. So now you went through, you met a bunch of people, you got some capital. That's valuable. But after that, he can do a syndicate for you with more fundraising, or he can invest directly. That's another channel. Or he can put you on This Week in Startups, the podcast. That's another channel. Or in the Launch Ticker, one of his email newsletters from inside.com, coming again, put you at Launch Festival. Now you're at a tech festival, or Scale Festival, yet another festival. So look, that's 7. And I know there's a handful others. Yes. So it's this stack of resources that makes him an incredibly invaluable investor, partner, whatever you want to call it. So I would say, my reaction would be something like, look, 2 things. One, I think what you're already doing, keep thinking about that whole stack, and which it sounds like you're adding to your already existing stack. And then 2 is, I think you said something about early wins. I would be careful on that, would be my reaction, because there's a chance that you have 0 wins. And I think you and your LPs have to be okay with that. But what's important is you've got to if you go in that mentality, you make bets, and then you find, look at YC, Reddit, Airbnb, Dropbox, that's all you need. That's 3 out of 1,000 companies.
Those 3 pay for a
Times
lifetime
times
full
100.
of,
they can invest 150 grand
bets,
till the end of time, right? So you might get those 3, you might get 0, and you might get 30. We don't know, right? You don't know what your deal flow is going to look like. So as you're structuring your accelerator, my reaction would be make sure it's an extremely valuable accelerator, because Sacramento has been known, I'm just going to be critical of my hometown. By the way, I've never lived anywhere else. Sacramento has been known to have some funky, like we call them incubators, accelerators. They have no value. They're time wasters. You got to make sure the program is really high value, so that the entrepreneurs who take the 12 weeks or however long it's going to be for you, their time are like really getting pushed and really getting value out of the program. You've got the capital piece. So that's really great. And then what happens after? There's that little system after, like how do you keep tabs on them after? I think that's an important thing, because they're going to come out and they're going to be better, but then they got to go run the business and grow. And then of course, make sure your LP mindset is like long game, right? Like, look, give me $50 million, give me $10 million, guys. And we're going to make $100,000 bets, whatever that math is. I don't know, it's 1,000 companies, right? Yeah. And we're going to do that 1,000 times. Okay. And out of those 1,000, if we hit 1 Dropbox, we're done. We're good.
Yeah.
Right. We may hit 0 Dropboxes, and that'll be okay too. So if they're okay with that, that's the kind of LP you want. I think that's important.
Okay. Very, very, very helpful. We have, just for our audience and for you as well. So there's a company called the Global Accelerator Network, which is a spinoff of Techstars leadership. So it's a network of 120, 130 accelerators across the country in cities like Sacramento. So we're coming in with a little bit of some guidance and a little bit of a playbook that we're customizing and so on for the Growth Factory. So we've got a partner there. We brought in Waitr Ventures, which is a local VC here that's very well respected. So we're partnered up with GSAC, right? The Greater Sacramento Economic Council. So we're beginning to put some of these partnerships together to help sort of strengthen up the base. And then I think, like what Misha is going to be, we're going to figure it out, right? Because we do not quit. We just attack from a different direction. And so I'm cautiously optimistic. People are saying yes today, but it's really going to get off the ground. Our first cohort we're expecting for September. So
September? Okay, great. Well, let me know, and I'd love to help any way I can.
Thank you. Okay, so just a minute left. Maybe close out any way that you want to, right? We're speaking to predominantly entrepreneurs, people who maybe want to be an entrepreneur and aren't there yet. Any thoughts from a humble guy that's also had a tremendous amount of success?
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it, man. And thanks for all you're doing for the community. I think that, commitment, you said a word, commitment. I think that's a really critical thing to take away from this conversation. Real commitment, and really making sure that if you do this, if you enter on this journey, like Misha's going on this journey and he's pre-revenue, right? And there's an interesting thing I discovered, because while you give me that nice description, I've had way more failures, they happen. And if you fail, sometimes you need to take a break, but if it's for you, you keep going. And just remember, success is actually harder than not figuring it out. The I'm figuring it out stage, like the stage Misha's in right now, it seems like it kind of sucks because we want to get going. I got to get he's probably talking to his coder every day. Where the hell's the platform? When's you going to ship this? When's the app going to go live? I know that feeling. And it feels like that's the time that's not fun. But it's when things actually start to happen where it gets really, really hard. So, remember to stay committed, stay focused on accountability and moving the ball down the field, and make sure you bet on people. That's really key. Your product's going to change over time, but make sure you're doing this with people that you want to be doing it with. Because if you do make it, it's 5 to 10 years. So you want to be doing it with people that you love.
Do it with people that you love. So many nuggets of wisdom. Sonny Mayugba, his company is Swimply. He loves Sacramento, so I'm hoping to attract him to the Growth Factory, my friends, and to the Mark Haney Show more often. So thank you for your wisdom and for being so generous with your time.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for having me.
You bet.
Thanks for watching today's show. My goal for every episode is that you find a takeaway, something tangible you can use in your business today. And if you have a comment about a favorite takeaway, feel free to put it in in the box below. And if you have a topic that you'd like me to bring up on the show, don't forget to let me know. And also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to learn more about entrepreneurship. Because at Haney Biz, we are always by your side.